My name is Jono Allen and I am an underwater photographer, expedition leader and environmental scientist. I've always grown up near the ocean and I've always been connected to the ocean, but my real connection with it only started about 3 years ago when I discovered freediving. Prior to that, I was living in Africa for 2 years, and so while I was over in Africa, I was really immersed in some really powerful nature. I would often wake up with hippos and hyenas around the house, or I'd go out into the savannah and spend time with herds of elephants, rhinos, giraffe, lions, leopards. It was just a really incredible time, a really powerful time, and I felt very much at peace and at home amongst the wildlife. Coming back to Australia, I felt like there was something missing after such a really powerful experience, and I was looking for a way to find that again back home, because there's something really special about being in the water, just being close to enormous animals, and it's a really powerful experience. And yeah, I was really longing for that when I got home. So when I discovered freediving, one of the first animals I spent time with underwater was with humpback whales. And that was the most incredible and the most powerful thing that I'd ever experienced. When I first dived with whales, I knew that was the best thing I could do with my life. That was the most amazing experience and feeling I could ever feel. After diving with whales, it changed my life forever. And shortly after that, I took every bit of money that I had and I bought a camera and I bought a housing. And I just started freediving every single day, multiple times a day for over a year. I would just go out and freedive and chase nature and get closer and closer to it and just chase that connection. And when looking back on it, I think I neglected the underwater world for so long. I guess I kind of robbed myself of it. I just didn't really associate being so close with nature with the underwater world. So once I did discover that, and then discovered that you can get closer to animals underwater than you can anywhere else. Manta rays, sharks, orca, humpback whales, blue whales even. You can get within a couple of feet of these animals and really connect with them, which you can't readily do with elephants or rhinos or lions or tigers or anything. So yeah, once I had that experience, it was life-changing, and yeah, I've just never looked back since. I would have to say that growing up on the farm that I spent a lot of time in when I was young, so my grandparents owned a farm down on the south coast of New South Wales in a small town called Cabarga. That's where I was able to escape the city and just be immersed in complete untouched nature. Definitely untouched compared to what I was living in the city. So we would have echidnas and wombats and kangaroos and wedge-tailed eagles and just that kind of classic Australian outback or just countryside. And yeah, I would just feel so at home and so peaceful there. I just felt, I felt normal there, I guess, or I felt like I belonged there. The world seems normal in that context. I always kind of felt that the city life was a bit artificial and confusing and a bit too much. So I just loved spending time down there on that farm. And then I think one of the most powerful moments I had is when I went down to this small creek at the bottom of one of the paddocks in between our farm and the next neighboring property. And this little creek would go and collect into this kind of small, tiny little basin, but it was only about 3 or 4 meters, and it was just kind of just this deep hole with fresh water, and there was just all these tadpoles and tiny frogs and little lizards all just kind of playing around and just existing in this tiny little freshwater rock pool. And I spent, I think, what it must have been a couple of hours down there with the frogs and the tadpoles, and it just blew my mind. And I've since before I can remember, have been, just obsessed and really connected with wildlife. It's just something that, it's always been the case for me. And so, yeah, the farm was really, really key in helping to grow that. So I first picked up a camera about 13, 14 years ago. I picked up a Canon 5D Mark II, and I took that over with me to Sumatra to photograph a tiger trek. So I had the camera, but I wasn't underwater. I mean, I had those kind of like GoPros and the UTUF like underwater point and shoots and stuff like that. But my first housing underwater was in 2018, where I took a good DSLR underwater, and that was in Byron Bay. And then after a few months of shooting in Byron Bay, I went over to Tonga and then started shooting the humpback whales there. I chose the path of just traveling and just getting out there and exploring the world as much as possible. So I chose the path that my parents were probably least happy about, and probably the most reckless path, where I spent at least a decade traveling. So my gap year was 10 years long. Went over to Asia, South America, like Iceland, Africa, just kind of, as many places that had wildlife. So I would kind of go, in South Africa, I would go to do, say, the great white sharks there, and go and look at the safari parks, and then Namibia, and we'd just go out to, out through the desert there, and kind of take in as many different forms of wildlife as possible. So I did eventually go back to school and I studied environmental science, but for the first 10 years I just explored. I just traveled to every single country I could that had amazing wildlife, and I would go and try and experience that and get as close as possible to that. And I just kind of followed what I felt was calling me. I had a real push against the kind of corporate world, and I just had this crazy pull towards the natural world. So I just kind of followed that, and then was very lucky to kind of end up where I have ended up now, where things have kind of fallen into place, and I can at the moment keep doing this. The feeling of waking up each day and being like, I'm gonna go and photograph sharks, or I'm gonna go and dive with whales, or I'm gonna take the day off or do nothing, or I'm gonna have say just a day to look after myself, or just have a day to rest the mind, or whatever I want to do. That for me is living, and that's the most valuable thing for me. Outside of that, I would probably say connection with nature. Again, just, it's my opinion that we are part of nature, and we're from this earth, and we're just a part of this whole ecosystem. And the idea of us and the environment, or us and nature, to me is ridiculous. So I think just being in nature and connecting with it is probably my other most valued thing on the planet. If I can inspire more people, and I think if the world as a whole can just develop that connection with nature and with ourselves, we are part of this world. We didn't come from anywhere else, where we are nature. And if I can just, I'd want just everyone to kind of realize that and to reconnect with that, and then I think everything else would kind of fall into place. We wouldn't have sharks being killed by the millions. We wouldn't have elephants and rhinos being driven to extinction. We wouldn't have, the clearing of land for so many things, because we would value them, we would care about them, and we would love them. So, older civilizations have shown this, where, it's not about going backwards or idolizing a time that has passed, but it's human to care about what you're connected with. And a lot of the older civilizations, they can, and some of the current ones as well, they have spent so much time around nature, and they understand their connection with it, that they just naturally care about it, and they looked after it. And just because we live in a modern world with technology and with crazy economies and all that kind of thing, doesn't mean we can't still include our love and connection to nature, which would in turn then allow us to protect it and protect ourselves as well. I think anything with nature in it has guided my thinking. Any single wildlife documentary I've watched, any single, David Attenborough, Steve Irwin, Nat Geo, all those things have shown great insights into the natural world and really kind of pushed me along. I've also loved like books and stuff like Lord of the Rings, even though it's super super cliche to say, but before the movies came out, that kind of idea of just going out on an adventure and exploring the world and kind of jumping into the deep end has always been really inspiring to me. I think it's a cool way to live. With books, I would say The Alchemist is a great book to read, and that inspired me. That kind of just landed on my lap one day, and basically it just shows that you can fall in love with the idea of how something is or how a certain life will be or the idea of what you want your future to be, but more times than not it's about appreciating what you already have and making something out of what you already have and just being true to yourself than going outside and looking for external things or looking outside all the time. Legacy, I think the best legacy I could leave ever would be memories and photographs. I think I'd rather be remembered for memories. So if I can help to introduce people to nature and help to connect them with nature, and if people who come with me to swim with the whales or come with me here to swim with the sharks, if they can just have that amazing relationship with them, and if I can light a passion for the ocean in these people and a passion for these animals in these people, and then that continues on to their kids and their friends, and if that keeps growing, then that's the best thing I could do, because I think that's something that the world needs the most, and now more than ever. The advice I'd give to someone trying to follow their dreams with ocean storytelling would be just keep going, just keep doing it. If you're passionate about something, just keep harboring it and keep pushing forward and keep working on it. Sometimes you do have to be realistic and go, okay, am I a terrible photographer but am I a great presenter, or am I a terrible presenter but I'm a great videographer? See where your skills lie, where your talents lie, and try and align them with your passions the most, as well as you can. And I think in some ways it's a good thing to understand that you might you will make sacrifices. There's no two ways about it. The chances of you being in a penthouse apartment with a yacht and a Bugatti are pretty slim if you're going to be spending a lot of time in the ocean and telling natural stories. But the life that you get to live is so rich and so meaningful. So if you care more about that and you're happy living that kind of life, then yeah, just embrace it and go with it. Be true to yourself. Enjoy the journey. Don't just chase the shot. One of my burning animals that I want to see, and I want more than anything, is to see orca. And I was in Mexico a couple of months ago and there was orcas in the area, and I spent an entire day being like, okay, where are the orcas, and I really wanted to see them, and I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm stressing myself out and I'm scanning the ocean super intensely, and I was skipping the journey. There was sea lions past me, there was birds, there was dolphins, and I was no, I'll get my chance with orcas. It will happen when it happens, and and just enjoy that journey and try to bring myself back to no, we've got time, and just enjoy the process, enjoy the journey, and put your love for nature first before you try and be an award-winning photographer or have 100,000 followers on Instagram. Don't worry about all that. Just harbor your love for the ocean and allow that to be your driving force.